Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We're so glad to have you here. Thank you for taking some of your time on this very fine Monday to join us for this first of a long series of webinar named Beyond Profit. And today we'll dive deep into a journey into shared value. We'll explore how our business evolves from profit-centric models to shared value creation, benefiting companies, suppliers, communities, and of course, the planet. I am your humble host, Jean-Christian Rendoni. I am a conscious business growth advisor, CEO and founder of Symbiosis Infinity Group. We are a business advisory company dedicated to helping companies grow through purpose, rooted in the principle of shared value through our infinity loop, and we enable organizations to align commercial success with positive impact, fair trade, empowering suppliers in less developed countries, and create lasting value for communities and consumers alike. Before I forget, do not hesitate to drop your LinkedIn and your comments in the comments section. We'd love to keep in touch with you. We'll do our best to address all your questions and comments during this talk. And if we cannot make it, we'll of course get back to you through a message and through video. Thank you again for being here. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our special guest today, my mentor, coach, and dear friend, Thomas, who took some of his precious time to address this very important topic of share value creation. Thomas? Oh, shit. Yes, sir.
Hi, JC. Thank you for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here to share, experience, practices, ideas, and inspiration. Invite people to join this amazing journey for value creation. That's the next level of, business expression. We have exhausted the model of extracting content, extracting resources constantly, and we are just emerging for a new business model, business framework, and this is a great pleasure to be here with you and supporting Symbiosis Infinity Group to expand its reach and its impact.
Great. Well, thank you again, Thomas. So, the first question that, of course, comes to mind for all the people that are watching us is what first led you to question the traditional profit first approach to business?
I think it was an interesting thing because I worked at the corporate world for 10 years and then I became a consultant for the following 10 years. And I think my third act of life was recognizing that human beings are natural entrepreneurs. And as I started my own business, one thing that I noticed was that we had something very, very powerful, which is we are naturally conscious business leaders. We do something to actually improve the world around us through our business. That's a purpose. We recognize that we are interdependent with all the ecosystem. We create a culture that will, leverage the potential of our business and creating that community. And that's all based on leadership development. So I discovered myself as an unconscious conscious capitalist because I was unconsciously applying the conscious business framework. And once I got to know this, I say, oh my God, this is how we live. This is how we start businesses. This is how we actually improve the world around us through the intention of offering something better to the world, right?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people that are watching or people that are doing business and being entrepreneurs are conscious entrepreneurs, and it has been the same case as for me. When I discovered the conscious capitalism and conscious business growth, it was like a revelation. But I've always done that all my life, and I didn't put a word or a movement into this. And it is a very inspiring model that should inspire a lot of fellow entrepreneurs out there from whichever region and whichever industry they're in.
Yeah,
During your
it is.
journey, yeah,
Uh-huh.
sorry, go ahead.
This is so powerful because a lot of people out there, and we have, certified over 1,200 consultants, and every time somebody joins us and goes through this project, this program of teaching, the conscious business framework, people understand that's a natural expression of the human talent. And sometimes you join somebody to expand somebody else's project or business or impact, but this is our natural expansion of impact and of consciousness. So it's so great to see that you also recognize this as you have gone through the program and say, I've been doing this. I didn't know that had a name and a structure, a framework. So it just gives us more strength to offer this methodology as we start understanding it's a natural expression of the human entrepreneurial activity.
Absolutely. I think that as human beings, we need to have certain, we should have certain values that are dedicated to humanity, to protecting the environment, and to doing good around us. And I think that, conscious business growth, that's what it's all about, is really implementing the deep values that you have within yourself into the business world to create a lasting impact. So, Thomas, you co-founded Conscious Capitalism Brazil. You're the chairman of the board of Conscious Business Journey, which has the largest network of conscious business growth consultant in the world. What drove you to launch Conscious Business Journey?
Well, I was actually one thing that when I discovered that I was, an conscious entrepreneur, conscious business leader, and discovered this framework. I did a TED talk and people started asking me, so, okay, I'm inspired by your talk and how do I make this happen in my business? So I wrote the first book called Fundamentals of Conscious Business, Conscious Capitalism. In Spanish was Conscious Business. And see the natural evolution, capitalism is the system. We change the business so that the system becomes a consequence of some better business practices. So it was amazing that people started asking me questions. So that book became our, educational program. And since 2015, we developed this program and we went even to Cuba to teach the future entrepreneurs at a socialist country that, independent if you're left or right, you as a human being, everyone here believes that the entrepreneurial activity, elevates humanity. And that is the impact we can offer. If you go one way or the other, it doesn't matter, but that's the source, that's the beginning. So that brought me to do that training program in many different countries. And I went to Israel for 2 times in a row in the 6 months. And somebody in Israel said, I want to invest. This is not just like a side gig. This is a business. We got a tremendous investment on putting this up to speed and becoming a business that became Conscious Business Journey, because consciousness is not the destination, is the journey. So whatever you do today can be improved tomorrow and keep on going. So that's the invitation I do, is you want to have a conscious business, you're going to be better month over month and year over year. So when we talk about purpose-driven organization, you are your standard. You want to be better than the previous period. So it's not setting a goal of how much you're going to sell. It's setting a goal how much better you're going to be on the next period, quarter, year, or decade, or whatever your measurement is. So that's how Conscious Business Journey started. From an initial, idea of intention to share the content, and somebody seeing this has to be a business. This has to be structured as a business so that the focus is on growing better, not just offering this as a side gig. So that's how it all started. And after that, we reached 1,200 consultants in 26 countries. So this is the amazing thing, My daughter has a board where she paints all the countries she visited. I have a board painting how many countries we have people sharing this idea with a clear structure. So that's so exciting.
Amazing journey for Conscious Business Journey, indeed. And I was privileged to be part of the program, and this opened up a lot of perspective. I've had 20 years plus of international business experience in 30 plus countries. But still, there's a lot that I've learned through the certification program that really helped me broaden my horizons and open up my mind towards having a lasting impact and doing something much more important than just making money and profit, which we all know is the necessary for businesses to run. But we need to go beyond that. That's why the theme of our webinars is called Beyond Profit, because we need to look beyond the profit, beyond the short-term orientation of developing your business model and developing your company. And as such, creating value around in your business ecosystem is a very important point of conscious business growth. So for the people that are watching us and that are, let's say, new to conscious business growth, how would you define shared value, and how does it differentiate from CSR or philanthropy, for example?
Good, love it. Philanthropy, let's start with that. I think philanthropy is important, but it's not sustainable because it's giving the fish instead of helping the other person know how to fish. So it is important because we have crisis, and sometimes we just have to come in, jump in, and give that kind of help. CSR, it's almost like a compliance requirement. And I like to bring a saying from Paul Polman. He was the CEO of Unilever for 10 years. He said, Unilever has amazing social and environmental initiatives, but these initiatives are outside of the business, so they become compliance. So I've done this. I have my social impact book. I have my environmental impact book. I complete that task, put that book away, and go back to business as usual. And what he did was starting to move social and environmental impact activities and initiatives into what their value chain is. So whatever I go through, I'm going to do it with a lower impact, with a lower footprint, with a higher social contribution. So that was the major difference. That's when we talk about the conscious or value added to the conscious business growth strategy, is make sure that whatever you do, it's part of your core, not something on the side. Because if it sits on the side, you just comply with that and go back to business as usual and try to generate profit at any cost. And this is what we are trying to get away. Profit should be a consequence. And there's a very famous saying on people from the financial side is like, cash is king, but it's not the dictator. So that has to be important. Cash is king, yes, but it will not dictate how we're going to run the business. Because if we stop generating value, cash will be deposed as the king because it's not sustainable on the long run. So that's the invitation I make, that let's rethink how we do business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing this beautiful insight with us regarding what is shared value. And digging into the conscious business growth model, we can see that we can create a lot of value within our business ecosystem with your stakeholders. And this goes through stakeholders and identification, stakeholder mapping, and stakeholder integration as well, which enables organization basically to really pinpoint which are the stakeholders that matter the most to their business and what we can do for each other in order to sustain this co-value creation for sustainable and ethical and equitable partnership, whether it is with your shareholders, whether it is with your consumers, your employees, and your suppliers. So, there is a lot of talk around, conscious capitalism. There's a lot of theory. There is a lot of conferences. But let's try to be a little bit practical here. Let's try to give some practical example on how we can materialize. We can go through from concept to actually implementing that within your organization. So for an entrepreneur that is not necessarily conscious, but that resonates with the concept of shared value and conscious business growth, what would you say are the practical benefits companies sees when they embraced a shared value mindset?
I love this. This is so powerful because this is an expansion from what we learn in school and colleges and master degrees, is like value chain, suppliers, company and employees, and then customers. We have to expand to that, because imagine if the family of your employees are having problem, how much attention you get from your employee at work. If your supplier is struggling with the way you deal with the business with that supplier, how much can he contribute to the growth of that relationship? If the surrounding communities are not happy with your presence. So all this, when we expand this from a linear approach to a systemic approach, we have the opportunity to actually create so much value. And let's tap into what nature's R&D has discovered over like 30 million years. There's no tree that competes with another tree. They talk to each other underground with the roots, with the system, with chemicals and all that stuff, sending message to each other to contribute to the strength of that ecosystem. We have to stop thinking about silos and think about, the system. What else is around you? And what else are you impacting with your presence? And who else is impacting your business, your activity with their presence in that ecosystem? So this is a big change on how actually to understand this. Now, the second thing that I think is very important, well, first of all, if you're here, you're at a different level of leadership because you are already concerned about, business has to evolve. So first one is recognize interdependence. This is an ecosystem, not a silo approach, or a linear approach. The second one is understand why you're doing this. Because if you have your purpose statement written out, expressed, you have a better chance to create better governance. Today, most of the governance work is done based on ROI, return on investment. How much money I'm putting in, how much money I'm getting out. And we're forgetting the hidden costs of the impact of our presence, or the hidden value that we can create from an investment, from a long term, right? So that's a different way of governing your business, going back to CSR and other philanthropy. A clear purpose, which is a tool to decision making within the business, can make the change on how your business will impact and influence the ecosystem, and how people will behave in favor or against you. If the only thing you look is money or financial value creation, that's what the people around you will look when interacting with you. If you look at more other values, and we can talk about so many different values, and not everybody wants more money. Some people are looking for other value creation. No, I want, social impact. I want some, emotional dividend. I want environmental dividend. So there's so many other levels of value creation that a business can generate. So we have to be careful with that, because that's the invitation. We can create value in multiple dimensions, not only in the economical side. That's why cash is king, but not the dictator.
Great, completely agree with you, Thomas. And I like the analogy you're making around nature. So I said you don't need AI to realize that we already have a perfect ecosystem that is around us and that has been working beautifully for millions of years, and in harmony, in symbiosis, where not only the trees but all the animals and everything that is part of the ecosystem of a forest, for example, is interdependent, and they all grow and they all thrive thanks to each other. And it would be a different story, let's say, if it would just be one species against the other, not interconnected and not basically helping and supporting each other during the process. But we see that forest is in perfect alignment with the laws of nature, and this is why it's working so well. Now, if you look at a business in the same direction with the same perspective, you realize that by taking care of all the people and all the organizations that are within your ecosystem, you will thrive, your company will thrive even more, and everyone will be lifted up. So, it's a very nice analogy and a very nice metaphor. If we look at a real life example, if there is one company that comes to your mind, a company or business that shifted towards shared value and experience amazing upgrade results, what would be the case study that you would take and tell everybody?
Well, there's so many stories, so many cases. Maybe I should go for the most traditional people will remember, will know. And Whole Foods has a very systemic approach to this. They start with saying that, we start with the happiness of our employees. And the second stakeholder, we want to make sure we have good partnerships with our suppliers so that the customers receive value in the exchange when they come to the store. That will make happy investors, and which will allow us to give good attention to the community and to the surrounding environment. So when you look at that mandala, that circular effect, so when your employee is happy, it will be, working closer with more creativity, with full dedication to create better partnerships, looking for better suppliers. Suppliers will always be willing to offer more because you have a good relationship. That better value offered by suppliers and better partners will create more value to customers. Customers will buy more. If they buy more, we have better results. The better results will allow investors to be more, more caring for the whole system. So they will be more concerned about the corporate citizenship, will promote more voluntary work, more philanthropy, more donation, and that will affect the local community. And the local community will recognize employees as part of this big system, and employees will come back to work proud of what they offer, proud of the work they're delivering. And a proud employee is a happy employee, will create more value with partners, with suppliers. So now we just created a virtual circle of value creation where everybody perceives value. And the amazing thing, a lot of companies that we have mapped that do this, that implement this, have shown financial results up to 7 times higher than the average market performance when you compare to the stock market performance. So this is the amazing thing. By doing good, you do better in terms of financial results. So the financial results improve as you care more for your surroundings, as you're less of a plunderer, like Ray Anderson used to, measure himself, say, I operated my business as a plunderer. I just extracted from the world, and I would change this approach. So this is the beauty. As you identify, the more value you create for the system, the more the system will reward you in financial performance.
Yeah, and these are amazing statistics, and figures never lie, numbers never lie, and when you look at the numbers that you just pulled through, I mean, it should be a no-brainer for every entrepreneur and every conscious or unconscious companies to implement this conscious business growth model. Of course, it's not easy for anybody to get out of their comfort zone and to reinvent and to upgrade themselves. And it takes a lot of, dedication, courage, and also, willingness to have a positive impact. And at the end, we realize also that it's all about, the mindset that you have and the values that you have inside as a leader. And if you don't have these values or this particular mindset as a person, it's very difficult to translate that within your management or leadership style and within your organization. So when we talk about mindset, which is, a very important part of the leadership nowadays and the way leaders are conducting their business and managing their operations, what kind of mindset shift must happen at the leadership level to prioritize long-term shared value over short-term profit?
That's a very challenging question, because we keep asking, say, what will make somebody awaken from the traditional last century business model where you're just extracting from the system to actually create a systemic value? It will vary from person to person. I like to always invite people, say, and ask a question: how much is enough? Because you can accumulate financial wealth forever. $1 billion, 5 billion, 20 billion, and you keep going. But the ultimate question is, how much is enough? What are you going to do with that? And from history, we've learned that if you imagine those great entrepreneurs from the 19th century, Rockefeller, Carnegie, these guys,
Yeah.
they come from like thousands of years of poverty. And they accumulated so much wealth that if you compare their wealth, they accumulated wealth to the wealthy people today, they're 3 times more wealthier than the richest man on earth. And to a point that whole generation, whole century or almost 2 centuries, they have been known today as philanthropists because that's how much they accumulated. Now, if you look at the entrepreneurs, 2 significant entrepreneurs from last century, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, they stopped and say, oh my God, we accumulated too much. When you accumulate too much, we are depriving the rest of society, the rest of the ecosystem of flourish with you, because you just pile up everything here. You're not going to consume or generate the same value as the people at the bottom. So if you elevate all these people, so what they're working on is transferring the wealth to NGOs and invest in social and environmental impact projects so that you can elevate the rest of the world. Now, people in this century, they're just thinking completely different. And more companies are moving towards, they still patent ideas, but they allow people to use their patents. How crazy is that? Because there's a transition. If you don't patent, somebody will patent that idea and will take it away from the system. So if you're an entrepreneur, have a great idea, patent that idea and offer that for free. Let people use it. So the old system will not go away. We have to work with the old system and the new system simultaneously, so to make that transition. But the majority, like over 50% of entrepreneurs, new business starting in North America today, that's the statistics, are purpose-driven business. Of course, they look for profit too, but the main driver is purpose, the impact they're causing with their business. So that's a significant change in the way we're moving towards the economy for the 21st century. So that's, and more leaders are concerning about this. So that's legacy. Why you're doing this? So start with the question, how much is enough for you? Some people are more advanced. They have to have a life event to say, oh my God, what am I doing? But some with a question will actually think, once you're gone, what stays here? And I want to share a story that has nothing to do with business. Since my daughter was, 4, we go to my brother-in-law's farm. And there's a path, very nice, with trees, 50 meters of trees, nice shadow. And so every year I pick up like the little plants and put them in the small cups and try to grow them. And every year they 99% die because maybe I'm not very good on handling this. So ultimately, after 3 years, my daughter, she was 7, she said, Daddy, why are you picking this? They all die at home, you're not growing. And I say, well, but a couple of them are doing, getting better. Say, what kind of tree is this? So I show her on that path, those trees with 10 meters high, and they don't cross on the top. They just get very close. They respect each other. It's an amazing tree. And then she looks at that tree. Wow, that's a really pretty tree. Isn't it a good path? Yes, it is. So, but how long does this little plant grow to that tree? Maybe 60, 70 years. So she looks at me, with basic math, say, why are you doing this? Because, your age plus 50, 60, 70, you might not be here to see it. And then I told her, say, isn't this a great path to go? Yeah, it is, because we go out for a walk, and when we're coming back, there's some food, some goodies served in the afternoon. Say, that's the beauty. Somebody planted those trees to make shade on our path. And I'm trying to extend that another 10, 15, 20, 30 meters forward. So my question to you that are listening is, we are walking in somebody else's shade or somebody else's trees that create this shade, this better environment for us when compared to the previous generation. What are we leaving behind for those that come behind us on this path? So that's the invitation. Nothing else is going to stick around unless you allow yourself to create something to be there. Some companies don't even exist anymore. If you build a company and somebody buys them out, their name is going to disappear. So what is your legacy when you're done with this chapter of your life?
Yeah, beautiful story regarding the legacy and future generation. And I believe that now is the time to plant the seeds also for future generation. And we can see that a lot of people are awakening to the sense that we need to be more conscious, not only in our daily lives, and the way we handle our planet, in the way we handle our relationships, in the way we also show up in the world for ourselves and for other people, but also in the way that we are doing business. And of course, nothing comes easy, and it takes a lot of effort and dedication and commitment to happen so. But always keeping in mind that the good you do now has an impact in the world now, but will have an impact for all the years to come. And if we all plant a little seed, then it'll become a forest where everyone will be able to thrive and live in more balance, more equilibrium, and in more alignment with our true nature and the true nature of human being, which is helping and supporting each other. And as entrepreneurs, that's also a force that we have within ourselves in order to do so. So it should be one of our duties as entrepreneurs to do so. We talked about leadership, Thomas, but of course, leadership is not enough to have the shared value mentality, or the shared value impregnated in the company culture. We all know that culture is extremely important when it comes to have a purpose and a strong company culture that embodies this mindset in the DNA of the firm itself. So for entrepreneurs that are looking at us right now and that are wondering, how can I build a culture that supports shared value across my organizations, what would be the few tips that you would give them?
One of the critical things on building a culture is recognizing that a culture is based on rituals. If you think about religion, how many rituals we have that gather people together to celebrate different things. When we do business, if we only celebrate financial success, that's what we are creating. People just focused on the money. If we have an ability to celebrate knowledge, emotional dividend, environmental impact, and all the other things that are an expression of our presence as a business, we will create a different culture, a different way of belonging. Because the whole process of creating a culture is, imagine, well, let's go to an example. I always like to think about examples and make that clear. Can you imagine why people tattoo themselves? Why they print something on the skin that might stick there forever? Now you can take it off, but for many, many years has always been something forever, permanent. You don't tattoo yourself with a product. That's my first cell phone. This is my first fast food I ate on. This is, and so you tattoo yourself with something that is life lasting. Your team, the passion for your soccer team or your football team or your basketball team or your partner, or those are things that you expect to last forever. Now imagine if you tattoo yourself with a product or service you sell, how much engagement that gives you, how much belonging that generates for you. So rituals are what actually generate belonging. And the best expression is, let's go and think about, if you need to buy something to move you from one place to the other, say, would you ever think, I want a transport method that's high risky? I want to buy a transport method that's high risky because, that's what I like, to move from here to there and, travel. You don't buy that. But what is a motorcycle? It's a high risk transport method, right? Maybe one of the highest risks. But some people tattoo themselves with that brand, not because it represents high risk, because it represents a tribe. And I visited Harley Davidson plant in Milwaukee. That was the first one. And, every employee had that tattoo. I visited the store people had tattoo, the customers had a tattoo, suppliers had tattoos. And I saw even prospects. They don't have the motorcycle yet, but they already have the tattoo. They're ready to join the tribe. And I witnessed 40,000 bikers getting into Milwaukee on a weekend. People sitting on the sidewalks to watch the bikes go by, in and out. So it is impressive. If your brand has the ability, if your product, your service, your company has the ability to create that community, have the strong rituals celebrating your values, not celebrating just the financial success, but celebrating the values, what's important. That's when you actually have the ability to create a culture that, goes from inside the business to the whole world and creates an ecosystem. And I can tell you, Harley Davidson is not the best bike out there.
It's one of the most famous.
It is
if not the most famous.
It is the most engaging. Is the one that generates belonging. It's the one that people tattoo themselves with the brand. Yeah. So that's the invitation. That's how you want to build a culture. Let's think about how you make people belong to the idea you offer to the world. Now you're not a product anymore. You have to be an idea.
Exactly. Yes, and an idea not only internally for all your employees and all the people that work within the organization, but also how to communicate the brand outside so that you create an emotional bond with your customers, which are always one of your major stakeholders. Because at the end, if your customers are not satisfied, how can your company can sustain its business? And this is where creating this brand storytelling to create an emotional bond between you and your customers is a very important factor of raising this shared value culture, and also ensuring that there is a story behind the product that people purchase from you, that it's not just something on the shelf. And we know that there's a lot of companies that are conscious companies are generally spending way less in marketing by implementing shared value creation, by implementing a conscious business growth model, because they have this emotional attachment with their customers. Therefore, they don't need to spend millions in marketing and advertising.
Yes. Well, and that's one of the characteristics. When we talked about the case studies, the examples, companies that actually perform creating value to all the stakeholders, all the ecosystem, they spend much less money in marketing, in branding, in communication and promotion, because they pay better suppliers, better the employees, offer better value. And that's the word of mouth is much more stronger than any other thing, any other kind of promotion that you can create.
Great. Well, it's already been 40 minutes, so time flies. It's an amazing discussion. And I think that, we've already talked a lot and delivered a lot of creative and beautiful insights regarding the world of beyond profit and shared value and conscious business growth. We were talking, a few minutes ago about future generations, about what's to come, about planting the seed for what will happen in the near and far future. When you close your eyes and you have the dream of what business will be, in the next 10, 20 years, what kind of dream do you have for the conscious business growth and for conscious business journey as well?
When I look at the future, I'm always very optimistic. And I strongly believe that more and more people, as the statistics show, are going to focus on making money and generating, working on a purpose-based approach, and understanding that money is not everything. We're more and more coming into a more abundant world. So I don't have to buy everything, because a lot of the stuff is already around me available. So it's understanding what new values, what's the next level of value creation that is out there. Because salary was something when we had to survive. Now we just don't want salary. We want opportunity to grow. We want continuous to learn. We want flexibility on our work. So that simple relationship between time and paycheck has evolved to 4 or 5 different levels of exchange. And if we don't understand that our product has to be more than just one level of exchange, and this is what I see more frequently and expanding, people understanding that you don't buy a product because you're hungry. I'm hungry, I just need to buy a specific, no. You just go, you're not that hungry that much anymore. Of course, other places are still on the hungry stage, but we can contribute to elevate everyone. And that is, when I look forward and say, I'm so happy to see more companies thinking about, more businesses thinking about this, even like when you see Unilever buying Ben & Jerry's, which is one of the explorers of this new economy, that influences a much larger company from a small one. So even the small companies will be acquired by larger ones. They will be some influence into that bigger system. And ultimately, you might have new brands taking over the old brands because of the way we operate. So that's my, and that's one thing. And the other thing is like seeing a couple of people that are part of our community. Karen in Toronto, she's following us here at this conversation. Raul, who is a partner with you, JC, is also here from Germany. So this is very exciting, and I would like to offer that everyone who comes through this recording and has any question, just ask that question. JC and I will come together and respond it and share another video. So there will not be any question without answer. We want to make sure that whatever we're sharing here makes sense to you, and it makes sense to implement and generate this new economy that's coming forward.
Well, thank you, Thomas, for this beautiful closing statements. And I would like to thank everyone, Raul, Karen, Ines, for joining. It's been a pleasure to have you on board. Of course, feel free to drop your comments, questions, and your LinkedIn as well, so that we can keep in touch and follow up and really create a network of like-minded people, of conscious entrepreneurs that can connect together and make significant impact in the world through the power of business. We'll make a small announcement. This was series number 1. Series number 2 will be on the 16th of June. We will talk about conscious leadership, and we will have Terry Maxwell, CEO and founder of Shiftco and Grow on Purpose, that will join us as a special guest. So we're very excited about that. In the meantime, you can follow us on LinkedIn, Symbiosis Infinity Group. We'll share some articles, some beautiful insights, and really create a strong community. Thomas, thank you again for your time. It was a fantastic talk. First, so some small technical details to be overcome at the beginning, but lesson learned. And thank you again for your time. And we look forward to have you on board again for another webinar.
Thank you so much, JC. And hopefully we connect a stronger community, make the community stronger every day.
Absolutely. Okay. Great. Thank you, everyone. Take care.